Good evening, everybody. Happy Monday. Thanks for stopping by. We've got Steve Owens with Bass Nation and I think Bassmaster as well in the house tonight. We're going to talk tournament fishing. So, Steve, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Wow. Hey, we're just jumping right in it. Hey,
Yeah.
I appreciate I appreciate being able to be on. I appreciate what you and Danny do. As you all know, I live in Tennessee on Lake Chickamauga, Nickajack, Gunnersville. We're all connected, but um, arguably Georgia's got some of the best fishing waters in the country. So, like, if you live in Texas, Florida, Tennessee, Georgia, I would throw in California, but it's so spread out. But like Georgia, even like the no motor reservoirs and stuff like that, the rivers. Tennessee's got some really good rivers. Georgia is just eat up with fishing, and so it's really good to be on here. You know, I I worked chemical plants, reactor operator my whole life for almost 30 years, and 3 or 4 years ago, I was able to quit full time and go into uh, running tournaments. And as you know, I work for Dugout Bait and Tackle. I do marketing, run the kayak team, do some purchasing and stuff there. But um, got started into kayak fishing 12, 13 years ago with my buddy Ryan Lambert, and we brought a few other people in, and he and Seth Lassiter and some other people started a local club here on Lake Chickamauga, fishing Chickamauga, Gunnersville, some of the Georgia bodies of water, and we grew Tennessee Valley Kayak Anglers (TVKA) into a pretty strong series that brought in a lot of national anglers via KBF, which I ran the KBF series when Chad brought them to Chickamauga, Gunnersville, and some other lakes around the area. And that just grew into when Dwayne Wally started the Bassmaster Kayak Series, he reached out to myself and a few other people to help develop that, and then we got that off the ground, and that worked for a little while. For the first season, I ran the first Open Championship we had on Logan Martin that Jim Davis won from the Knoxville area. We had a really successful trail series that year, but then I had to back away because I didn't have enough time working a regular job as a reactor operator, and then I moved into maintenance. CDC's calling me again. Anybody else getting these CDC calls?
No,
Ah,
I
sheesh.
got
Oh
I got
no.
one from the sheriff's department today telling me
Oh
to do my
no! Don't
headlights
answer
off
that one.
the fog.
Yeah. So anyway, we had a good series, and I didn't have enough time to take off work. So a couple of years went by, and we just continued to run what we got in our area. We started up Georgia and Tennessee Bass Nation. Freddie Garza was the one that took Georgia off and got it running, and they had an Open Series championship for a year, and then he had to move on. And by then, I was kind of situated to where I thought I was going to be able to do this for a full time job, including dugout. And so we kept Georgia and Tennessee rolling, and now we're where we're at. We're in year 6, I think it is, of the Bassmaster Kayak Series. Year 5, we're in year 5 of the Georgia and Tennessee Bass Nation Series, and right now they're all going pretty well. Pretty well. We obviously can't do it without the anglers coming in. The big thing is trying to get sponsor support for everything that we do,
Yeah.
which is really difficult, because um, you have to give a return on investment, and there's just a lot of people, who have their hands out, it not in a negative way, that's what you're supposed to do, but
Right.
uh, we're just doing the best we can to keep what we do out there.
Hmm.
Kayak fishing is not only tournament fishing; it's just not.
Right.
Somebody come up with a number, that kayak fishing is 5% of the space. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but because everybody I know is a tournament fisherman,
Right.
um, but either way, it's just not. And we're here to help include everybody we can, and try to not alienate anyone, and just make it to where we just want you to fish. I don't care. I didn't fish a tournament my whole life till I got in kayak, and I grew up
Yeah.
on Nickajack and Gunnersville, so it's just what we want there.
Yeah.
But that's who I am. I just
That's
I
awesome.
just piddle around and kick rocks and try to make a living out of it. Yeah.
That's cool. That's awesome. So it's a long time in the plants and stuff. What made you decide to leave? Like that you were just done with it?
Uh, to be honest with you, it was, number one, the Lord opened the doors for it. Number two, having a supportive partner, my wife Jordan, she's got a job that allows us to do this. Um, but the other part was, my son owns a flooring company that sponsors some of the stuff that we do. And then it's just to be honest with you, my wife and I sat down one day and it was like, here's what I need to do. And it's like, this is also what I need to do. And then here's family. And then here's this other thing. And then here's us trying to take a personal vacation or two. And I was just spread so thin. And so I sat down and she said, look, just choose one or the other. Um, See what you can do in the fishing world. And then if not, you know, work where you work, because as you know, chemical plants, the more dangerous a job, the more money you make. The
Yeah.
crappier shift you make, the more money you make. So, we looked at all of that and I said, well, babe, here's what I can make over here, which is not, chemical plant money, but she said, well, the biggest thing is what do you want to do with your life and your time? My dad, he died from a staph infection at 51 years old, and
Um,
so at 47, I'm 50 now. So at 47, I was like, "I- if we could pay our bills and me have the flexibility, because I have some grandkids now, I have my son in high school, if I can work um, and have the flexibility to be home, because like when my wife's off work, I'm home in here working on the computer or on the phone or out, doing what we call research and development days on the water, and then when she works, I'm here, and so I do travel, and you all see that, and it's great, but I'm home more now. Because I'm not at a job, so to speak,
yeah.
but that's what did it. So my dad dying that early, getting to experience the country through kayak fishing tournaments, fishing the Hobies, the
Yeah.
KBFs, other stuff like that we got to all travel and fish. Um, it just showed me it's like, you know what, man, I just want to live. If we got to sell our house, move into a smaller one, and that's okay too. I just want to live, and when I'm gone, I want a whole lot of people. I want a whole lot of people to be around that casket, talking about what we got to do. I have
Yeah.
one of my best bud pals. He said, I'd rather have memories in my head than money in my pocket, and I think that's what really kind of did it for me. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's awesome.
so
That's a good story.
yeah, I appreciate it, man. So.
Yeah. So Bassmaster needs to come to Pickwick or Ross Barnett or Sardis or Granada, something close to us Mississippi guys.
Hey, we had came to Pickwick one year and it went really well. But then, Bassmaster kind of fell off due to, different reasons. But sorry, I've been sick for the last 2 days, so it's going to take me a minute. But in 2027, I kind of feel like, Pickwick needs to be circled back around to just paying attention to geography and a map, what I've got in my brain for 2027. I think Pickwick should be one that we will have it back on. I want to have it when we've got a full body of water and it's not, drained down. Um, so I think that'll be really good because both of those tournaments, fish really, really well.
Yeah.
Um, so and the good thing about Pickwick is it's a lake, that you can fish and not have to scope the whole time,
Hmm.
which I think we're having to pay attention to a little bit more.
Yeah. 100%. I know I'll be out at Santee Cooper in May with some of these guys in the chat room.
Yeah, that'll be great. That's It's gonna be a pretty good one. I'm gonna work on. I'm right now. I'm getting the details nailed down on the locations for all of the championship stuff because we're fishing out of Chattanooga. We got to go to Knoxville for awards and everything. So um, once I get that nailed down this week or next week, I'm going to push out all the information for Santee Cooper because, as Kissimmee's the first one, but Santee Cooper's in May. We still have Caddo Bistino to go, but Caddo Bistino, those people that are going all there, they're already going to know where we need to go. But Santee, we've got a lot of, I'm not going to say newbies, but people who have not been up in that area or fished a Bassmaster tournament. I'm getting a lot of messages saying that's going to be their first one. So,
Yeah.
and we had that on Lake Murray too when we had 258 anglers. So.
Ooh. It'll be my first Bassmaster as well.
Yeah, and I appreciate it, man. Like you guys, I mean, it's people try to make tiers out of things or even, back channel, they make competition out of this series and that series. But man, the way I've always operated, even when we only had grassroots before we grew into anything else, is when we put on a tournament, hell, it's like an invitation to come over to the house.
Yeah.
And we want everybody that can fish something to fish something. That's why, I lose sleep over making sure that I try to deconflict on the schedule. Make sure that I get it at the right time of year, and I don't put it on top of a big boat tournament if we can. And then when you're done with it, you still didn't get it right because just there's things it just happens. It just does.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So
Yeah. See, Andrew Blair says, tell Steve we need a Santee safety brief for this year's event. That's prime gator mating season for those who don't know.
yeah, I'm thinking this year, um, and primarily and mainly because we lost Peyton at Table Rock,
Mhm.
and Peyton, he didn't have his PFD on during practice. There's been all kinds of stories out there about what happened to him, but we were there. Literally, it was heading there to meet him the next morning to give him a piece of equipment. He just didn't have his PFD on practicing, and that's a rule. Um, there's been stories that he lost his kayak and he tried to swim out to it, and none of that has any justification to it whatsoever. All intents and purposes, the young man was standing up fishing, lost his balance. There was evidence that he hit his head on something, and that's how it was. So, but having said that, with that on top of every event, we try to launch a little early so I can get you all to your spots before the boats start rocking you.
Mhm.
People have, you know, no lighting to poor lighting, the whole 9 yards. I kind of feel like maybe this is a year where we just say, you know what, every meeting is an in-person meeting.
Yeah.
Because for those of you who are unfamiliar, what I like to do with the Bassmaster Kayak Series is you come in, you do your board check and registration. You have to have your license in person. If you don't have your license when you come up, there's a penalty to that for that. Have your fishing license ready and available, and once that's done and you get your identifier card, you can go on because I don't want you coming in from, you just got off work late, evidently. I don't want you having to drive all the way there and then have to sit and wait for 2 hours on me to be able to give you an angler briefing. So I let you go on, get back to your place, get something to eat, do the three S's, get your rigging done, and then watch a YouTube video. Um, but what we're finding, I think, in this past year, by the simple things people are missing, they're not watching it. I
Mhm.
gave them that leniency, and a lot of people do it right. But I think with what we're having, with what we did with Peyton, I'm getting people messaging me saying, "Hey, I've seen three people with no lights," or I saw people with red and green light for navigation lights on their PFD. Well, hell, that's not the front of your kayak. It's got to be on the front of your kayak, right? you
Right.
know and
Yeah.
and so just having said that, I think we got to wrangle it in a little bit. So to your point, Andrew, on Santee, you all will probably be sitting in a chair, pissed off because you've had to sit for an hour and a half waiting on me. But we're probably going to do that. We'll talk about the Gators and everything like that. So yeah,
Perfect. Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. And you said you run the dugout kayak team as well?
Yeah, so like I said, I run the Bassmaster Series, Georgia, Tennessee Bass Nation. I just handed Tennessee Valley Kayak Anglers over off Chickamauga to Jesse Clark and a couple other guys, and then I run the dugout bait and tackle staff and do purchasing, marketing, stuff like that. Just a hustler,
Yeah.
for
It's staying
whatever,
busy, man. I don't know how you make time for it all.
Yeah, so that's why I tell everybody I do just enough to make my wife think I got a real job. So, yeah, yeah, yeah. Got a lot of irons in the fire, but it's again, it's stuff that's fun.
Do you ever get to fish this stuff too though that you're putting together?
I do. So like Bassmaster, I obviously would never ever fish because I mean,
Mhm.
number one, there's a whole lot going on there, but number two, it's just that's for us. That's what we have as what you, if you want to call it a pro series. But Georgia and Tennessee, I can fish those. Uh, but primarily, Daniel Davis is my partner. So what we kind of do is, so like I don't give, I outsource our judging. I pay someone else to do the judging for our tournaments, and so Daniel, he can fish some of the Tennessee and the other judge will do it, or I'll judge those. And then when we comes to Georgia, if the paid judge can't do it, Daniel will judge those, and I'll fish the Georgia. And
Okay, that's
so
cool.
in person, he is at 100% of the Tennessee. I'm at 100% of the Georgia, and I try to make most of the Tennessee ones that I can. Because in Tennessee, we work with the Bill Dance Signature Lakes and the Giant Bass Open stuff. So we try to cross pollinate as much as we can to put some marketing and some hype to it because we have a little bit of a following. So, we want to make sure that we maximize that. So, but I do get to fish Georgia. I think I fished 5 out of 8 last year because I had to travel to Arizona for y'all's Lanier when y'all fished early.
Mhm.
Um, and then Russell, I chose to just lay back because that was just kind of a break for me because I had done so much rushing and running. So I stayed at the lake house there, just relaxed and went to Ain't It Good and sat there and hang out with them for a little while.
That's cool.
Um, yeah. So and I don't fish the Alatoona one because we meet up at the Etowah the Expo Etowah thing,
Mhm.
and so that one's kind of an all day deal. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Let's see. War Eagle the best. What does Georgia law say about wearing a PFD in a kayak? Do you have to wear it, or does it have to be in the kayak? I'm pretty sure it just has to be in the kayak, but if the tournament rules say you got to wear it, then you got to wear it.
You're right. Georgia law says you have to have it in the kayak, but the rules should be published now when you click on Tourney X. We're getting the website, the Georgia Bass Nation website, redone. But
Mhm.
whenever you click on the new rules for 2026, starting on Monday, the week of the tournament, you have to obey all practice rules, which means you have to have your PFD on.
Yep.
So if you're posting social media on Tuesday of the event and we see that and we cross it back, then you could be, excluded from that tournament. Because again, like I said, Peyton, he drowned during official practice, not wearing his PFD. And so that's where we're at with it. And so I saw today a really popular guy. He's a phenomenal dude. I like him a lot. They've been fishing here recently, just hammering fish, and neither one of them have their PFD on. And I'm sure they have it in the kayak, and that's okay.
Mhm.
And just a quick sidebar. So I know a lot of you know AJ McWhirter, who ran the Hobie series or whatever. So like he was instrumental in keeping me in this. I was leaving kayak fishing 5 or 6 years ago until I met Jamie at Dugout, but I met him through Jamie, through AJ McWhirter, and there was nothing wrong. I was just tired of the rigmarole, and we were just kind of around here a little bit stagnant. We only had a few things to do, and I was just like, man, whatever. And so he introduced me there, and we brainstormed to come up with some things, and then he talked me into literally jumping in on the Bass Nation stuff when I had to leave Bassmaster, so that we had grassroots, a little bit more of an upper tier, and then you have the Hobie, the Bassmaster, KBF at the time had a trail series, and so either way, myself and Daniel Davis, Sassy Dan, and AJ were fishing a lake close to AJ's house in Kentucky, 2 weeks after we lost Peyton, and I had a guy in a kayak. We were fishing on AJ's boat, so I had a guy come up in a kayak and recognize us, and so he's like, "Hey, there's three dudes that do whatever, and we're just carrying on." And he literally tells me, "Man, I hate to see that about Peyton or whatever." And I'm looking down on him, and he's a guy about my size, no PFD on, and I was like. I said, AJ kind of looked and I looked and I was like, you got to say something, if you don't, and something happens, you get to carry that guilt. So I said, hey man, I said, I appreciate all that. I said, I just want to say, you don't even have your PFD on,
Yeah.
and oh man, I've got two of them in my hatch. I've got one under my seat, and he was just trying to deflect, and I couldn't let it go. I said,
Mhm.
well, I mean, you know, Peyton's was behind his seat next to his black pack. He could have grabbed it easily. Oh no, brother, blah blah. I always do this and this, and I was like, so when you flip, you're going to be able to get under the water, grab your Hobie, open the hatch, get your PFD off, and put it on.
Right.
Man, what are y'all? And he kept deflecting, and I was just like, man, what do you call? Is it Darwinism, strongest survival of the fittest, or whatever you want to call it? I was like,
Right.
what takes over then? But anyway, that's why Daniel stepped in. And he said, we need to make sure we put in the rules that, during practice you gotta have that PFD on. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, man, I put mine on before I even backed the trailer down the boat ramp.
Yeah, and that's, dude. I started doing that the same way. And fun, and I won't go too far down it, but at Toledo Bend, another, Peyton was a college angler. Another college angler, I got a picture of him fishing, and there's his PFD on his black pack
Yeah.
during practice. And I called him and I said, "Hey man, what are you doing?" And he was like, "Oh, nothing." I was like, "Where's your PFD?" And he said, "Oh no." And
Mhm.
all he did was put it on his black pack, because when you launch you're going to grab it, put it back on, and he just forgot to grab it, put it back on, so we had to suspend him from that tournament. But it's easy to do. And I'll share this, and I don't mind sharing it. The day that we lost Peyton, I was fishing about 2 hours away, another body of water with a friend, and she and I were fishing, and a thunder boomer came through. So I put my rain jacket on, and as it got hotter after the rain was gone, I took that off. Well, I took my PFD off, put my rain jacket on, then put my PFD on, and it got hot, like 85, 90 degrees hot. And so I took it off to take my rain gear off, and I forgot to put my PFD back on. Now we're just fun fishing, but I literally fished 4 hours, and then I caught a pretty big fish. It's like 5 pounds or whatever. And I went to take a selfie, and when I went to reach for my phone that I always clip to my PFD, it was gone, and I was like, "Oh crap! I don't even have a life jacket on."
Yeah.
And it was so surreal when we found out, that he was missing. I was like, it just happened to me too, you know. And I can't tell you, it's been 10 years since I was in a kayak and did not have my life jacket on, and it happened that same day. So I, I think that maybe in my brain, my little brain, it was, it can happen to anybody. Don't try to overthink it when
Yep.
it comes to Peyton.
Yeah. It can happen to anybody. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
That's and that's one of the reasons I put mine on before I even before I even back the trailer down, because I'm out there by myself most of the time. I could slip and fall on the boat ramp, hit my head on the trailer, and get knocked out. You know, and and I would drown at the boat ramp.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, we got some questions in here. Is there a no info rule in kayak tournament fishing?
There is so I'll break it down. In Georgia and Tennessee Bass Nation, the info rule is 30 days before the tournament, you can't be on a guide boat. All right. And then so now we'll move over to the Bassmaster Series, which is Kissimmee, Caddo, Santee, Clear Lake, Susquehanna, Wolf and Fox. On those, the guide rule is in place. And then there's an official practice period that is 21 days before the tournaments. You can't solicit, which means ask for tournament information on that body of water. You can't solicit information from a guide. So let's just say we're fishing Caddo and Bistineau. You can't ask a guide on Lake Lanier what he thinks about Caddo Bistineau. That's still a guide. It doesn't matter where they're at. That's still a guide.
Okay.
And that's actually happened to someone and cost them fourth place in about 3 grand. So um, that's the no information rule. When official practice starts, if you're in a bait and tackle shop and these guys are saying, "Hey man, we caught them on such and such," or yada yada, then just say to those guys, "Hey man, we're in a tournament. If we don't mind, we can't." And if they don't listen to that, then you just leave. You
Yeah.
know, and call me if you want to self-report it so that your conscience is clear in case you have to take a polygraph. But you didn't do anything wrong because you didn't ask. Um, During practice, you can ask other competitors, you can discuss your day with other competitors. I can't go up to Alex and say, "Hey, Alex, what are you catching them on?" But I can go up to Alex and say, "Man, I'm wrecking them on the chatterbaits. You need to come with me." You know, Alex can come up to me and say, "Hey, Steve O, do you have a couple of green pumpkin Cincos that I can borrow?" You can do that. You know,
Okay.
you can communicate with other competitors. You just can't ask questions on how they're catching fish. You can borrow things. Now, telephone calls, you can't use them in Bassmaster. You can call Alex and say, "Alex, my rudder broke. Can you meet me and get me back to the truck?" You can do that. You can call Torpedo and say, "Hey, Torpedo, my motor messed up. What do I need to do?" You can call Dugout Bait and Tackle and say, "Hey, my Torpedo messed up. What do I need to do?" You can call and do those kinds of things. You can call a buddy that's fishing 6 miles away and say, "Hey, John Doe, how are you?" "I'm doing good, man." "I was okay. I was just doing a safety check. I'll talk to you later," and hang up and do that. Bass Nation, the wording is still probably the same, and I need to edit it. But like Georgia and Tennessee, we do allow you to talk on the phone because I know the boats don't do it, but we still want it to kind of have that grassroots feel. You know, I've fished a lot of tournaments and we're just on the phone shooting the BS,
Yeah.
and I'm sure I can't, I wonder if how many people are sharing information. I don't know that it happens, but there again, and if the anglers don't want it, then we'll outlaw it. But in Bass Nation, which is Georgia, Tennessee, stuff like that, we allow you to talk a little on the phone and just carry on about your day or whatever. But Bassmaster, that's where your information is. And all that stuff, whenever you click on your TourneyX link to register, if you'll go down to that shadow box, tournament information, you can scroll in it and it'll have all of that. If you're on Facebook, you can click events on the Newport Bassmaster Kayak Series, and in each of those events is an illustrated graphic that gives you all the dates for your off limits and your official practice time, and those will be on the Bassmaster website soon. I had gotten a message on Facebook recently. We don't have the new waiver W-9 and rules uploaded just yet because people didn't get back into the office until today. So
Okay.
if you're waiting on your Bassmaster Kayak Series championship invitation, it'll be there this week. The deadline for the nation, Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, and all those, that deadline was December the 31st. So I had to then take all that information, put it on a spreadsheet, and send it to Bassmaster. So once that gets vetted and make sure that all the Bassmaster IDs link up, then the email that you have on your own Bassmaster account is where you'll get your invitation, which is a small caveat. I tell
Oh,
nation updated because if you've got a bad email on Tourney X and Alex as a TD tries to message you on Tourney X, if it's a bad email, you're never going to get it.
yep.
Well, if you don't get that email and you do something that's a violation and Alex has to disqualify you, well, that's on you, you know. Um, Another thing on Tourney X, don't do, Sweet Daddy Steve as your name. Put Steve Owens on there. I can't tell you how many times we download the spreadsheet and we go to click on a name and you're like, who is Red Rider 7-4? You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah, but anyway, it's all good. But
Oh, let's see. War Eagle says, "Why do you allow competitors to ask each other? It gives a big advantage to certain groups of anglers versus others." But I know that guys on the Elite Series can share information with each other.
yeah,
So I don't really
that's
see.
it. It's on the water, and the War Eagle. I understand it. Um, it's just the nature of fishing. You're still um, on the same body of water. You're still the same competitors, and the best explanation I could get. We talked about this about 4 years ago. Um, you know, we all can get aggravated and agitated at the things that go on. But at the end of the day, if you start making it to where people are so scared that if they hear a bird chirp, they think they got information, dude, it just sucks the fun out of all of it, all
Yeah.
of it. So now there are, to War Eagle's point, maybe this is what they're thinking. Um, you could have flotillas, there could be six of us out there practicing together, and I can share with you, oh, I'm catching them on a Ned with a red jig head, and I'm catching them on a shaky head with a green pumpkin one. I guess, but I don't think it's as prevalent, as our paranoid minds might get. Like as soon as you see somebody do something, you're like, oh well, that hot chick's only with him because he's a billionaire. Well, hell, he may be a good dude. You never know. Um, and so that's the reason War Eagle is, I guess, probably the dumbest down answer I could come up with for me is it's allowed already in every tournament series, from MLF to Ultimate Fishing to MPFL Bassmaster. Competitors can talk, and part of that stems from, so like I'll share a story. When MLF was getting up and going, they were here on Lake Chickamauga a lot, and myself and a few friends are friends with quite a few of those professional anglers. And so Chester Frost Park's not far from my house, so we were there with about 8 or 10 of those guys that are fishing in that tournament. And this is what we were doing, sitting around a campfire drinking a beer.
Mhm.
I mean, you couldn't talk about anything, because they were so scared. It was like you couldn't say, "Man, I wrecked them today," and so I think that's part of it. It's just to keep that on there.
That's good.
Yeah.
Let's see. Can you launch more than once? Like if I launch at Lanier Islands and I'm not catching any fish, can I pull out and go down to East Bank by the dam?
You can, as long as, now Georgia and Tennessee Bass Nation, it just has to be public ramps and access.
Hmm.
Bassmaster, we have an official launch list. But yeah, you can take out and relaunch as many times as you need to on that body of water during the day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then no drones for pre-fishing, even for content. Content.
Correct. Yeah, yeah. So I was gonna try to do that, and just because I mean that's a very important thing for us. Bassmaster's gotten some stuff that you all have sent to me in the Dropbox, and they love it. But we're here to fish, and that's the only way you can look at it is like you really can. And so when we reached out, so about 3 years ago, me, AJ, Hoover, and some other people had kind of unified the rules for what we thought would be the National Trail Series. And then Drew's series came along, and we pretty much aligned as much as we could with him too. And, so we had actually heard of people using a drone to spy on one another, you know,
Oh
during
yeah.
practice. And so that was the main thing. And then we had talked to some of the red fishing guys, and the red fishing guys, reds get super shallow and they're bigger than bass. So they had used, that some of the guides used them to be able to put people on fish. And, for me, I was kind of like, well, there's not that many. And for me, it was a lackadaisical approach, and I shouldn't have took it, but it's hell. I'll just say it's the end of the year, fatigue or whatever. And so I was like, you know what? Hey, we can use it during practice, yada yada. And then somebody brought up the point. It's like, well, like let's just take for instance Drew Gregory on Havasu. I'll say that because there's a very popular video that Mark Cisneros, our camera guy, took of a drone that shows Drew catching catching a smallmouth with like 7 or 8 of them following him. And if you put that into practice, and then you know, it
Yeah.
just it just puts. I think what I was trying to do, like you said, for content purposes, put more of a gray area than we needed. So kind of like what War Eagle had said about communication on the water. Um, you know, that's been allowed, is allowed, but when it comes to the technology part of it, you could use it to where you could say, there's only so many people that you can talk to in a day, so you have a small advantage. But if you've got a drone covering Lake Lanier, dude,
Yeah.
in a day and a half, you can cover that whole freaking lake and mark every point if the water's a little low. And so that's a bigger advantage. So that those are the ones that we have to make sure that we eliminate. So yeah, in Bass Nation, which is Georgia, Tennessee, you can't use drones during practice, and Bassmaster you can't use them during practice. Both of them you can't use them during competition. On day two of competition in a Bassmaster or a Georgia Bass Nation, Tennessee Bass Nation, once you return to the ramp, you can launch once competition's over for the whole day, for the whole event. You can go back out and do content after that. And so like if you're in a 1 day event and you come back to the launch and you're not making it to awards, you can go out and get content.
Okay.
And if you're in a 2 day event, you know, but whenever you do that, you're going to open yourself up to a naysayer pointing you out, and then I'm going to have to ask you for your SD card to get a date, a timestamp, and it's just there's enough time to get. So if you're working with a tourism body or whatever, you can go out any day of the year and get footage of the lake, and then during the event get your fishing content, and then add the tourism, drone footage, if you want to call it that. So just do it in a different time. It's like I kind of say during our angler briefing. I let you all know, hey, if mom calls or your wife calls with the kids just being badasses and you need to chew them out a little bit, pick up that phone call and tell them, handle your business. We're not going to stop that.
Mhm.
Um, but if it's your brother or your Facebook buddy or something like that calling to cheer you on, don't answer that call. I tell everybody. So I give you anglers what you need to hear, and then I speak to the people at home. I say, guys, Don't call Alex. Leave him alone. He's fishing for a lot of money today. Leave him alone. Let him fish. Um, and that's some of the struggle with kayaking sometimes is that we forget, because tournaments are even fun for us. And then on our grassroots level, and even in Bass Nation, as I said, we kind of still call on the phone a little bit and cut up. But at the end of the day, this is person against person, and then when you get up to what you want to call a I don't even like calling it a pro series, but the Bassmaster, the Hobies, the KBFs, the KAS, and the Team Kayak Series and stuff, you know, let these people fish. Shoot
Yeah.
them a text saying great job, but leave them alone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's game
let
time.
you. Yeah, it's exactly right. Let you make your money that day, so to speak. And
Mhm.
it's not all about money. If you win $10, you just still want to beat the other guys.
Yep. Yep.
So
Heck, even if I don't, even if I don't land in the money, as long as I beat my buddy, I won.
that's it. The first rule is I want a limit, and then
Yeah.
there's somebody that I wanted to get a hold of this week. I want to make sure I beat them.
And what's the minimum age for Bassmaster this year? Is it still 16?
Yeah, it's 16 in Georgia, Tennessee, Bass Nation, and Bassmaster.
Okay. Oh man, got to get these ones in too.
Mm,
If that's the case, what is the difference with forward-facing sonar? It's also an advantage.
um,
And Thad followed up with a forward-facing sonar isn't telling me where Alex is catching fish at.
well, and Michael, we'll say Michael Martin. It's a great point, and it's something that we've had to think about. So my little brain says your forward facing sonar is on your vessel looking at what you are actively pursuing and fishing. One is subsurface, the other is above, but I just kind of feel like there's a limit there. And I think it's just there's not a good answer to it. There's just really not because drones are cheaper. You can do whatever. It's kind of like Aquaview. The Aquaviews that you can drop down underwater and see if they're bluegill or whatever. I don't like those either,
Mhm.
But where we're at, every other series in the nation bans drone footage during practice and competition. It's some of it, and I'll be a scapegoat. I'm just going to use it as a scapegoat. Is we're aligning all the rules the best that we can across the board. But the other part is kind of to what Tad said there. It's just I, I'll just have to. I cannot dance around words. I just have to say it, and I don't mean to sound this way. One is you're putting a tool to work, and you're going to catch fish. You're trying to hunt and conquer with your forward facing sonar. The other is you're just sitting back, kind of just looking around, and you may not even look at an area, but if you see two bass boats there, boom, you're going to glue in on that, and then you're going to use your drone to see what they're doing. And you know, we've got anglers that have talked about using binoculars, watching other people fish, and this, and that, and the other. Well, I mean, is it allowed? Yeah. Is it a bitch move? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I just I don't want to do it. I don't want to trip you to beat you in a foot race. I don't. I want to. I'll be able to get you foot to foot. But So I guess Michael, there's just really not a good answer for that, other than it aligns with the consistency of all the other entities that fish across the country.
Yeah, I mean, if you're out there and you're flying a drone around, you can cover a lot more water with that drone than you can with your forward facing sonar. I mean, you can find a
Yeah.
lot of areas that you want to go to, or if you end up pulling out and going somewhere else, it's you can go scope that spot out with the drone before you even go over there, as long as it's not too far away.
Yeah.
So let's see what else we got here. Drones for beds and the snakehead tourneys too. It's an issue. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see it for sure. I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
So were you,
No,
were you ever involved with the KBF Tennessee stuff too?
yeah, well, KBF Tennessee, that's KBF 10.
Yep.
That's a grassroots club. I told you I started with Lambert with TVKA. We're in the same club. That's
Okay.
CAST, Kayak Angler Society of Tennessee. So there's 11 clubs in Tennessee that make up a body that makes a championship. So yeah, we fish
Okay.
together. We do a couple of joint events a year. But yeah, so that's KBF 10 is separate from Hoover's KBF, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. That's
yeah. So
cool.
Daniel Morris runs KBF 10, and dude, those guys bring like 60 people on a Tuesday nighter.
I know it's
I mean,
wild, man.
stupid, stupid. You know, and so that's we kind of took cast rules, and that's how we started with some of the Bassmaster stuff, and obviously Bass Nation and everything, and it was just because it was such a large group. It wasn't like we did everything better than everybody or anything like that, but we have a meeting every year, and it's all buddy. You know how it is, a burger and a beer. You start letting fly, but we painstakingly try to keep our rule book that thick.
Yeah.
Just because we don't want to add more things, because when you start adding more words, people think the more language, the better. When you start adding more language, you actually can open up more gray area.
Hmm.
You really can. And that's like what I did with the drones in practice, kind of thing. If you just keep it cut, dry, and simple, it might piss you off that you can't do something, but it'll save you getting burnt by opening the door later. And then me
Yep.
having to explain to you something that's going to make you angry, and you're not going to fish anymore. And it happens to all of us. I know, we're all, pals, and we do what we do, but like recently the two motors thing come up, and
Yeah.
and dude, it's great. It's fun. So it is freaking fun. And so, I get caught up in emotions like everybody else. And I know, Alex, you don't know me well, but you know me enough. Like I just told you, everything I try to do is inviting and inclusive. So I had just gotten hammered for about a couple of days, and I got pissed off about something. And I kind of came out of character a little bit and made a post where, it's kind of like, well, if you want two motors, just go somewhere else. Well, the reason I say that is stuff like losing Peyton. And so it's not for me, because I love what I do. It's not fun when you guys are out fishing and I'm having to sit there and judge fish and wait. Like the Bassmaster Lake Murray, the wind forecast was towards the end of the day. Well, lo and behold, at 11 a.m., I'm in my truck driving across the lake, helping get people off the riprap in subdivisions because the wind got that bad.
Wow.
It's just not fun. So when you get to two motors, it is fun and it is great. There aren't many kayaks that can handle the
Yeah.
weight, the buoyancy of the batteries it takes to carry two motors, because you're then going to put electronics on it. Most of us, ate too many biscuits for breakfast, and then you start throwing in 150 pounds of tackle that you're never going to throw. Your kayaks are not made for that.
No.
And so, and I had gotten, it was just a sidebar message, and I had gotten ticked off at a few things, and I made that post, and it was uncharacteristic. It wasn't directed at. So what brought it out was JC, which is a good buddy of mine. He's the one that posted, "Hey, we're allowing two." He and I had already talked for a month about that,
Hmm.
and I said, "Hey, man, bro, all power to you. There's people that'll love it. Not a lot of people can do it, so it's not going to be that many people. It's just really not. But I can't do it. I can't sit there all day long, nervous wreck, because you're going to add one to." let's don't even say perception, an academy kayak. Let's
Right.
just say you put it on a Kusa HD. You put two motors on a Kusa, you're done.
Mm.
It's gonna whoop, flip. So a name brand quality kayak, you just can't do it. And so the only way around that is for us to inspect every kayak before they go on the water, right?
Right.
Well, who's got the manpower to do that? So now I'm sitting there and I have to wait to call another person to say, we don't know where Alex is.
Hmm.
And then you're clutched, against a tree and we find you finally, thank God. I just couldn't do it. And so I had just reached a point there and I shouldn't have done it. It was my fault, but because again, we're all here together and, you know, I know what I say carries more weight than it should. But I spoke out of character. I was just agitated, and I shouldn't have done it, But because that's where we're at, Because if you're on, so like here's something that I thought was great about y'all's podcast last week. So having started grassroots clubs and then grown it to other things, you got Sham and you guys were talking about, our schedule at Georgia Bass Nation is lakes, this, that, and the other. Well, what about the electric reservoirs or whatever? And a fall series, because fall series are phenomenal. Well, guess what? We only still have so much calendar. So I think you brought up, let's don't add a extra series. Let's just adjust the dates where we can go from here to here with the fall
Hmm.
and make it one series. And then Sham had come up with it. He was like, well, if we got enough interest, let's do these, um, electric only or idle only lakes. Well, guess what? When you do that and you've got two motors, you don't have to worry about some jackleg on a wake boat,
Yep.
flipping you. Because the thing is everyone says, well, you can have two motors, but you can only have one engaged, and that's okay. And I don't like the what if, and I don't like hypotheticals because we can do this all day long to where you can explain why we don't need sunscreen. So you're going to forget and you're going to leave both of those motors underwater. So what happens when the wake hits you? You start, it
Yeah.
gives you more rocking and it's going to flip you. There's people that can put that better than I did, um, but if you're on those types of water or reservoirs like Rocky and stuff, you don't have to worry about that. So you can use two motors easily
Yeah.
and do your thing, even if you forget to bring one in, because there's the things that well, like in Georgia, and there's Bassmaster in Tennessee. I mean, I make mistakes like everybody else. I miss things like everybody else. You're going to, and the best thing as a tournament director you can ever do is own it immediately. Is to just own it. And so, like we had an issue in Georgia Bass Nation in the championship. Well, what we did was we backed up and like George's fish got kicked out in the Bassmaster on Gunnersville for the same thing. George didn't get disqualified, but that day's fish got disqualified. So, well, other people took it and said differently because they were misinformed, and it made it look like there was favoritism, and there wasn't. It's just
Mhm.
not the truth. Those things come up, and that's the best thing that you can do is to own it. And so from the beginning, you know, the worst thing we can do, and it's the easiest thing we do in kayak fishing, is we eat each other. If me and you run a trail series and the first time we have an a cracked mouth penalty be damned, people just jump all in both feet,
Yeah.
both feet. It's like, oh man, okay. How about you just report it, and say, hey, there's a cracked mouth, and we'll adjust it after the fact. Now you can't wait 2 days to do it, and so that's the fine line there is when an angler messes up, you get to punish, penalize, or whatever. But when a judge does it, what do you do there? You can't penalize a judge. I mean, but what you can do is where that judge messes up, you can see how do I back up and let that angler have restitution.
Hmm.
from that judge's error, the kind of thing. And that's something that's freaking hard. That's hard to do there because when you do that, it's costing the person below him money if
Hmm.
you don't get it right. And there's no rule book for that one, and that one sucks. So
See, Sham says Dugout's building a dream team with the team anglers. Then he says if we're going to do the electric only lakes, they typically have one launch, so we will also be able to see if an angler is launching with a kayak that's not rated for dual motors.
yeah, you can absolutely, and that's what you do. So here's what will happen, and to Sham's point. So here's what would happen, and it's happened here in Tennessee way back in the day. Somebody will launch like what Sham said, and they'll let you launch, and then later on send a picture to somebody and say, "Hey, we need to disqualify this guy."
Yeah.
What kind of crap is that?
Well.
We had so here in Tennessee, we used to allow the fanny pack PFDs.
Hmm.
We would have people paddle up to people and send us in pictures and say, "Here, Alex, is you got your abs out, your son, and he don't have a PFD on." Well, you did, but they would never say, "Hey, Alex, did you forget your PFD?"
Right.
They would just send us a picture saying, "Disqualify him. He don't have a PFD." And so
Hmm.
we would disqualify that person and say, "You let a man sit there in danger of drowning and let him go." So we started disqualifying people for that, you know. And they
That's
quit fishing
awesome.
with us. They quit fishing with us, but I
Yeah.
mean, they were just trying to be snitches.
Uh
And so,
huh.
but to Sham's point, that you're on only one or two launches, that's phenomenal because you can then step in and say, man, your kayak's too small for that. You can. That's really good. You know,
See, it's a shame we can't rely on letting people use their common sense with some of these things. It really is.
it is, but hey, I tell you the truth. I tell you the truth, Silver Punk. That's awesome. I tell you the truth. Hell, there's a lot of days I wake up and I forget my common sense too. I mean, if it weren't for training wheels and helmets, I wouldn't have made it this far in my life.
So let's talk about that dream team for a second, man. You just
Uh,
added quite a few hammers to the dugout squad.
Yeah, we've had a good run. So like, for the longest, we have we've had a pretty much a national team. We've always had um we've had annual um mm, sorry man, my throat is killing me. We've had, Adam Reiser. We've had Russ Snyder's on our team for a while. We got Christine Fisher, Tom Kazmierski, Wendy Biles, um, Daniel Lyons, which we just added Daniel recently, but we've always had Ewing Minor, Bennett Nall, Lovejoy, Little, Josh Stewart, Kaz Anderson fished with us for a little while. I know a lot of people know Kaz. But
Hmm.
yeah, we've all Jim Ware, G Man. We've always had a pretty large footprint, and then went through a couple of years. Everybody after the COVID bubble kind of plateaued, so to speak, and so we just rocked around, and it was like you start seeing your metrics, where your people coming from, and I could see that we needed to start reinforcing what we got around the home here, around the house, so to speak. Um, and so recently we've added. He's been on the team for about a year. I think Louis Delgado's on the team.
Hmm.
Then we added Daniel Lyons, um, Gary Butler, Deshaun Johnson,
Yeah.
Paris Edwards. He's a Tennessee guy here. A lot of people don't know about Paris. Paris is
Yeah, I know
fun.
Paris.
Oh yeah, dude,
Yeah.
Paris is great. So he's fished
He's
with us for a long time here in Tennessee. dragging a stupid jig around and busting everybody's butt. But
Yeah.
uh,
He's
that's what.
5-time angler of the year for the club over there, isn't he?
Yeah,
Four
five
or
or
five
six. I
times.
don't know what it was. Whatever. Like literally, when your streak is longer than Russ Snyder's, you need your picture on the side of a mountain. Um, yeah, and then oh, my brain fogs again. We added somebody. I'm going to forget it right now, but yeah. And so yeah, we added some more people. Because I have some things in the works that towards the end of 2026, I'll be able to put into action when we have more free time. But and it may not work, but it's just it's all about retail. Because every Boondocks product or NRS or Yak Attack we get is because we help sell those products. And you know, there's always a level of competition in everything, but by and large, we have, here in Tennessee, we've got, um, there's Frontier, Sportsman's Corner, Music City Outdoors, Battlefield. I'll include them because they're 5 miles from the Tennessee border. They're in Georgia. Um, that's about it for kayak shops. And then in Georgia, you've got Dugout, you got Westbrook, you've got Festive. Um, there's Oakwood Bait and Tackle on Lanier.
Oh yeah, they sell kayaks too, don't they?
Yeah, yep. And so, but after that, I don't know about the. I stopped in the kayak shop. I was fishing during the summer with Nick Dyer on the rivers down there trying to catch shoal bass. There was a kayak shop down there that I'm forgetting, but I stopped in there and they're getting rid of their kayaks.
Mhm.
But I don't think south of Atlanta. I really don't know. What's the place y'all fish down in South Georgia called West something?
West Point?
Yeah, is there a shopper in West Point anymore?
No, no.
That's what I'm saying, man. It sucks, but I mean, so like again, there's a retail competition there for everything, but it's not a rivalry like some people kind of like to. I don't know. It's just how we are. We always create the things, but if we don't have it dug out, then we send them to Westbrook. Mike Manavon, he's one of our best bud pals. Um, it's just how it works. You have to reciprocate it because, and even Festive, I know they've sent us rigging work and we've sent them a native customer when we didn't have a product, and you just have to do that. Most of the stuff that happens back channel is it just happens. It's just people.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Then Sham wants to know what your favorite kayak is right now, besides a Hobie.
I, I love the Hobie. I love the 360. Um, I got to go back. So like how we got started was with Native, and so then when I was leaving, when they did their whole merger thing and the buyout, it was just time for me to go. And then AJ talked me into a Hobie, and I'll be honest with you, I've owned Jackson, Old Town. I've had zero issues with any kayak I've ever owned. Um, my favorite kayak of all time, especially now that we have foot steering with motors, is my Titan 12 and a half.
Yeah.
You know, I love my Hobie 360. I love the 360. That's the only thing I ever miss is that 360. However, I fished out of a Hobie 180 for 2 or 3 years, and just used my foot steering. You know, a motor is fine, but what I liked about foot steering on the motor was it made it a 360 almost.
Yeah.
And being back in a 12 and a half again in that native Titan, I love it. It's so comfortable. Ramel, I always give him crap. Ramel Labrador helped Newport make it to some of where they're at now. And so he was mentioning, he's like, I don't even take a foot drive with me anymore, now that I've got foot steering. And I was like, man, you're crazy because, here in Tennessee, we have a rule. If you've got a motor, you have to have a foot drive. If you've got a foot drive, you have to have a paddle. You got to have a secondary means of propulsion, because you'd be surprised. We had people in that first Bassmaster Championship on Logan Martin call me and Daniel stranded in flooded water. My battery died. Well, can you paddle to shore? I don't have a paddle. So we had to call the emergency response people to go get them. And I mean they were on the clock, I guess, but
Yeah.
yeah. So but my favorite is of all time. It would be a 1A and 1B would be the 360 14 and my Titan 12 and a half. Like, it's just I love that Titan. I just do.
They're
It's
so
comfortable.
stable too, man.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, my Hobie, I've never, now I've almost fell out. Like, I know you all saw in Gunnersville, I almost died and got dumped out, but that hull filled with water, and I was fooling with 4 and 5 foot rollers. Um, but that Titan, I've taken, I've handled, I've been on Kentucky Lake in 20-mile-an-hour winds in that Titan, and had no problem. So you can tease me about wet feet all you want, and I'll take that Titan any day. Yeah,
I'm
and
on a Slayer Max. I'm trying to upgrade.
yeah,
Hopefully this year to the Titan X.
yeah. I just the Slayer Max is great too, but it's just, for me being, 280 or whatever, it's a little tippier, top heavy. I know the weight capacity on all these kayaks are great, but the heavier you are on top of a sit down, it's just, it's kind of
Mhm.
like having that extra motor underneath the water does this, up above does this. So you just gotta watch it. But
Yeah.
like we took the new hammer out and did a bunch of testing on it, that native hammer, and it's comfortable and it's great.
Just
But
kind
for
of got that
me,
rock, huh?
it's got it. Now you won't, it catches.
Yeah.
But again, if you've ate one too many biscuits that morning, it's going to take you on over.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but and Old Town, I've got an autopilot 136, and we all carry on because we fish. We all talk about whatever. I caught one this big, yada yada. I fished out of that Old Town autopilot in 25-mile-an-hour winds, um, and not for 1 second did I think I was going to flip over. The most stable, sturdy, comfortable kayak I've ever been in. Now it was slow because of that wind,
Hmm.
and it was to a point that I was only doing like a mile and a half an hour on max.
Dang.
And when
Yeah.
that happens, you can't really get out of the way with danger,
Mhm.
So, like, if you could put an NK 300 on the back of that and then take off with it, you'd be perfect. But that's just because that motor's not that powerful. But the thing about a native in an old town is they're rock solid. They're not going to leak on you. They're not going to bust or crack. So there's trade offs with all of it. But
Kayak Chris wants to know what you think about the XTR 130.
I haven't been in one yet. The only thing I've done is sit and look and dream
Hmm.
about rigging it. Yeah. So I haven't actually been in one. So I ran into Christian Conrad 2 state championships ago. That was the first one I got to put hands on at Hartwell and checked his out. And then when we got him in the shop at Dugout, got to go over him and look at it. I saw Abby Avendanza. He's on the Bonafide team. I've seen his on the road quite a bit. Um, Now Barry Davis, I got to see Barry Davis at the Purple Heart Homes tournament on Lake Norman. Barry Davis is just rigged out, and it's the rigged out like we love, like what we used to do. When you DIY this and that, or he's got electronics on his. But for me, what I like seeing is the tinkering, like,
Hmm.
oh, he's got a power pole stuck here, or and by power pole I mean a stake pole, not the motor on the back,
Right.
and well, he keeps his fish grips here and this, that, and the other. Barry's is rigged for efficiency, so that the XTR is pretty slick. It
They
would
are.
be, yeah.
Then Michael says, "Why doesn't anyone wire in a bilge pump inside the hull of their kayak?" I know a couple of guys on new canoes that have done that.
Well, Michael, funny story is, When I flipped on Gunnersville because my kayak got full, I had a bilge pump in. I just forgot about it and forgot to turn it on. So, so Tyler Bean was fishing the same slough I was in, and the wind had kicked up about 20. And on Gunnersville, people don't really understand. Gunnersville is dangerous in that it's a straight pipe from north to south. So if you get 10 to 15 miles an hour winds, it's pretty rough. You get to 20. So I came out. So Tyler, I saw him leave and I was like, I need to go. I need to leave right now. And I was just fun fishing. The team kayak series was going on, but I forgot, tournament director here. I'm down there on Tuesday with my buddy just wrecking them. So I called Michael Musgrove on the phone. I'm like, man, yada, yada, yada. We're catching them here and here. And I said, hey, we're fixing to take off. I'll holler at you in a minute. I had forgotten I was in a boat. I was just so locked in to going fishing with my buddy. So I couldn't fish a tournament that weekend. And so I went on and fished by myself that Saturday. I was going to make it to their awards. I didn't now. And so I got locked in. So I went up to the slough. I like to fish. And like I said, Tyler Bean was in there. And he's in that little U10, that little U10. And I'm like, oh, if he can make it out there, I'm good, in this PA 14. And so he left, and I was like, I need to leave because the wind was ripping. So I called Sassy Dan and I said, man, yada, 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 yada. Because where I was at, there's a takeout, there's a sneak hole. And he said, call our buddy Chris. We grew up in Marion County, which is right there on Gunnersville. So I called Chris, and Chris was an hour and a half away doing something. And he said, I'll be down there in a little while. Just keep fishing. I was like, yeah, whatever. I'm good. Spend time with your family. And I should have just waited and just fished. But the bugs reeked me up. I was tired of it. It's windy. I'd been fishing since daylight. So I just left and I went out to the main lake to just peek. And when I went out, it sucked me out to the main lake. And there was nothing I could do because it was so swift. And I've got the Torpedo 1103. I mean, it's the most powerful motor we got. I couldn't get back to the bank because the waves kept trying to flip me. So I had to go straight down the pipe. And all I can do is just think, I'm a mile from the boat ramp. And so, you don't want to go super fast because you start taking wake over.
Yeah.
Well, I had to go super fast because I couldn't steer. Because at one time it did me a complete 360. It, and I was just like, I thought I was over with. About damn near had vertigo. And so, I got settled. And so I just started plowing and I was cruising. I was like, okay, we're good. And all of a sudden, it just started rocking like super bad. And I said, "You're full of water," you know. And I was 100 yards from the boat ramp, and I've got a faith, and so I was like, praying the whole time, because you're out there by yourself. It's
Yeah.
over. I mean, water's 51 degrees at the time, and I was like, and so I flipped, and all day long I just had this feeling. What are you gonna do if you flip? What would you do this or this? And you're supposed to get away from the kayak, but for whatever reason, I grabbed that H rail, and thank goodness I did because my PFD didn't go off.
Oh.
And so once I got centered, the wake is just smashing me in my face, and I can't breathe. So I turn my head and I get situated, and I realize my PFD hasn't came off, and so I pop it, and it comes open, and I go to swim, and my hamstrings lock up. I couldn't move my legs. So had I not grabbed that kayak and went under and tried to come up and swim, my legs would have locked up with no PFD. And so I got it popped, and I could remember riding the wake upriver. And so I turned my back, and the wake pushed me. I was in the dead middle. It's probably 60-ish yards, probably maybe 70. And I just let the wake, I baby stroked and let the wake push me to the bank. And I had a game warden's number in my phone. And in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, he had me loaded up. Uh, but that's how quick it can happen. But I did have a bilge pump. But you just got to remember, what was that common sense thing?
Yeah.
I
Well,
forgot to turn it on.
when you get caught up in the moment, man, and your adrenaline's going, your heart's racing, you got 100 other things on your mind.
Yeah.
That's
But
scary, man.
Dude, I was having fun though, dude. I was just going 7.5 miles an hour, hopping these waves. I was like, heck yeah, you know. I wasn't thinking Hobies hold water sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
That's one of the things I tell people too when they ask me, why don't you wear an auto inflator?
you're right.
Because sometimes they
You're
don't
right.
inflate.
That's right. I've seen several videos from friends of mine that are standing up fishing, trolling, and they fall out, and the PFD don't go off,
Hmm.
Um, I think Jim Ware, as a matter of fact, you'll have Jim Ware on one time. Ask him about his PFD story. I'll get it wrong, but you're right to that guy's point. Um, it's hard. It sucks in the summertime because the PFD's hot. So wintertime, I have a Mustang that's the ones the boat drivers always use, the red ones. It's got
Yep.
the fleece pockets or whatever. I wear that one in the wintertime a lot. Drew Gregory turned me on to a Cocatat that's got a lot of fishing pockets, but the chest is real thick, so it makes you lean back like this if you ever hit the water and you get cold, you won't have to fight to stay up.
Okay.
I wear those in the wintertime, but if it's 50 degrees, I've got the inflatable on. It's just I don't know, I just can't breathe. But you're right. We shouldn't. I don't want to say we shouldn't have them, but it's better to not have one. To your point, if you hit your head, and it doesn't inflate, what do you do?
Right. Yep. And then Stephen
You know.
Sturgeon says, when the wind goes opposite of the current, huge rollers form.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly what happened on Gunnersville. Like I've been on Kentucky Lake in situations, and even Del Hollow. Del Hollow gets dicey really bad. I was on the phone with Marshall when I was just up there buddy fishing, and I didn't know anything about smallmouth, and he does. So I was calling him. I was just fishing by myself. I was by myself up there for 2 days, like an idiot, and it was probably about 30 degrees, and I was on the phone with him, and I was fishing all day. He was at work, and next thing you know, out of nowhere, it's like 15, 16 mile an hour winds. I was like, well, that ain't nothing. I was doing like 2 miles an hour, and every time you would crest a wave, the kayak would do like this because the wind was coming this way, but the way the current was going, you know, the wind is hitting me, but every time I got on top of a wave where the wind was hitting me, the wind, it would rock me this way. I mean, there was nothing I could do. And so I just slowed down and just crept.
Hmm.
And yeah, that was a bad one. There's no cell signal up there, so I mean, I guess a lot of times we forget what we're doing.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got called out on Carter's in a tournament. I think the wind kicked up to like 25, 30 miles an hour. And man, I've got that Slayer Max. I scooted that seat all the way back and I sat my ass on the floor.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was scared.
Yeah. I had to do that on Seminole. The the first one I won on Seminole, dude. I was plowing along, doing about 5 miles an hour on my motor, and wham, just stopped in the middle of and they call it the gator hole, um, and I couldn't move. So I literally stood up and walked to the front of that 180 and back, and it wouldn't teeter. That's how stuck I was on that stump.
Dang.
I had learned for anybody that's got a Hobie, Adam Reiser taught me this. If you're motoring, pull your drive out because the keel can help you be unstable if you're going faster. And the second thing is if you hit anything, it'll do you whatever. But if you've got the drive out, you'll skim over it. And so my drive was just buried and no cell phone signal. Couldn't call my partner who was up the road there fishing a little bit. And so I'm just sitting there. And of course, again, there's gators everywhere. And I'm like Carter's, there's people get the submerged timber in your scupper hole.
Timber. Yeah.
And so I literally thought, calm yourself down. So that for me, it's doing something. So I started putting up all my tackle, putting my rod sleeves on, putting them in my black pack and calming down. And I got down in the floor to get out of the wind because it was bad. And when I did, it started shifting. And so I just rocked back and forth. And after about 5 minutes of just piddling around, it finally broke that stump up enough where I could float off,
Ooh.
and then I started wrecking them. And so, yeah, but I thought it was over with. I was sitting there trying to listen for duck boats because, as it turns out, Steve Owens puts on more tournaments during opening day of duck season, no matter what state you're in. Seems like it. Pennsylvania, Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia. I'm going to get opening day of duck season. It seems like. So yeah, yeah,
I got stuck on some timber one time over at
yeah,
Hollis Latham. It's just below the surface, man. You got to really like be standing up to really be able to see it. And I don't even remember who it was. I was watching a YouTube video, and the guy got stuck on some standing timber, and I was like, ha, well, that'll never happen to me. Yeah,
yeah.
sure as heck. About 3 weeks later, I'm stuck on some standing timber, and when I put in, there was only one other truck in the parking lot, and they're nowhere to be found. So what am I
Yeah,
going to do? My only option is to either sit here and try to rock around or get out, and try to push this thing up. Luckily, I was able to rock enough to get off of it.
yeah,
That was
yeah,
get your nerves going.
yeah. It does, and yeah, and there was somebody. Yes, I do have a whistle. I've got a whistle. I got one strapped to my seat, and I got one in my PFD. Yeah, and not ashamed to admit the reason I started carrying a whistle was so I could whistle at my buddy across the way and tell him to come on over or something like that. So yeah, but I do have a Coast Guard approved whistle there. So yeah, uh-huh.
I do. I have one on my lanyard that I wear, and then I've got another one in my black and well in a track pack. I've got like a whole survival thing. I've got the fire blanket. I've got
Oh
fire starters. I got all kinds of stuff in there, man. Bunch of extra
yeah.
paracord and a little spoon.
Yeah, I'm gonna get that back. I actually today was in Sportsman's Warehouse and I was like, man, you got to get that first aid kit back in there and the whole 9 yards. But I mean, number one, as much as we travel, if it's in the car, you never know when you may need it for something
Yeah,
else. But yeah, it's
that's right.
yeah, just put put that crankbait box back and put your first aid kit in. You got plenty of room for it.
So
Yeah.
if you pull the drive on your Hobie, how do you keep the water from coming through?
Um. y- When if you're motorized, that water it really doesn't come up into that kayak, but the way the Hobie is sloped, so here's your front deck, it's sloped like that, it runs right back out that hole. Um, you don't get much in at all. Or what you can do is you can carry your cassette with you, so when you pull your drive, it comes with that little plug that goes down in there. You can carry that too, and it'll keep it from coming out. But it's not the water that comes in on a Hobie like that's not a very big deal. But with some Hobies, you got to pay attention because your horizontal rod storage, those tubes can become brittle, and when you get that water coming up, that for me is not a big deal. It'll go down those rod tubes and fill your hull up. So you want to make sure you're checking your kayak out. But above all else, to be safe, just slap that cassette back in where your Hobie drive goes, and it'll keep that water from coming in pretty much.
Perfect, perfect. Sham says a walkie-talkie is never a bad idea, and that's me and my wife when she goes fishing with me. We've got a set of walkie-talkies that we'll carry, so we're not yelling at each other across the lake.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we had them like back in the early before you had what they call the Bluetooth gang in our KBF stuff. We all carried walkie talkies, man, and we would just like you said, but now you can keep walkie talkies for emergency. You obviously can't go back and forth and tell each other where to catch fish, but
Right.
dude, walkie talkies and they're inexpensive, and that's why I kind of like we don't require you to check in and out on the Tourney X app, but let somebody know where you're launching from,
Yeah.
that way, if we don't hear from you or your wife calls and says, hey, what about Alex? I said, well, he didn't come to awards, you know, we can check in on Tourney X app to see where you at least launched from.
Right.
Or, if you don't do that, so like in a Bassmaster, A lot of people, a guy may come down from Iowa by himself. So I tell him, man, text me where you're launching,
Yeah.
and that way, if something happens, we got you, that kind of thing. But there's a lot of little things that we always overlook, that can keep us safe,
Hmm.
um, like for me, literally that day, dude. So when I flipped, not to go back to that again, but if I would have left when Tyler did, I'd have been okay. When I got out of the water and got to the bank, so let's see where I took off from 10 minutes by the time I went downriver, flipped, and made it to the bank. 10, 15 minutes. As soon as I got to the bank and got out, um, another thing, don't tether your phone to your kayak, tether it to your PFD. You know,
Hmm.
when we got out, when I got to the bank, as soon as I picked up my phone to make sure it worked, I looked, the wind just stopped. So had I just fished a little bit longer, I'd have been okay. Um, yeah, just so many little things you do. Like I don't have that spider sense.
Yeah.
Should we do this? Or I just go. And so yeah,
Yeah, same. I get caught in a lot of storms. So I'll be looking. I don't know. And I'll check my watch because I've got the weather and the wind and stuff all on my Apple Watch. Well, I mean, it says it's raining right now, but it ain't raining. I'm gonna stay.
yeah, absolutely.
I've been caught in some rough ones. Other platforms actually have tracking capabilities throughout the tournament day. Hmm. I know that there's a. I mean, every time you upload a fish, it shows where you caught it and stuff too, right?
Yeah, I don't know what they're talking about there. I know. Hold on a second. I know with fishing chaos and stuff like that, they're working on geofencing and stuff like that, so to speak. But I don't know. I don't know the other that he's talking about.
Okay, then some more walkie talkies. My survival kit is a can of potted meat.
Hey, pot of meat and
There
spam.
you
That's
go,
what that's
Joey.
what made America what it is. Yeah, I don't. I won't disagree with that.
Well, man, we've been going about an hour and a half. I know you're under the weather. You're feeling kind
Yeah.
of bad, so I can go ahead and let you go if you want to go. Not getting a whole lot of questions rolling in anymore. Um, I appreciate you coming on, man. You are anytime we talk about tournament directors, you're definitely top five. I'd say maybe even top three. Like you're one of the best there is out there. I don't know how you juggle all the different stuff that you do.
Yeah. I appreciate it, man. And again, wherever I land and whatever, I just want to make sure that everything we do gets every person to fish, whether no matter what they have, and so part of me with some of what we allow and don't allow is the barrier of entry,
Hmm.
because you see it, you're pretty tight knit into what we all do, it's you know a good kayak anymore is, let's just say, like a PWR,
Yeah.
Dude, you buy that kayak, you won't ever have to buy another one. You won't. But you're going to want a motor on it because they're fun. It's easier. It's just what we do. With what we do. But after that, man, you don't have to have these things. And I guess that's the challenge of everything we do, is to try to have as much fun as we can, put as much, uh, candy coated paint and nice wheels on your lifted truck as we can. We do it to kayaks too. We can't help it.
Yep.
It's just I think testosterone is a curse. Um, but at the end of the day, you still have to, you know, you just got to continue to, lack of a better word, beat into the community that you don't have to have all these things to
Yep.
win. There's times of year, if you don't have a scope, you may not win a tournament.
Yeah.
But there's times a year where when you have a scope, I mean, it doesn't play. It just doesn't play. And there's times of the year that no matter what you do, it's just not your day. Um, but I don't ever want it to be where there's so much stuff on a kayak that it makes people, and not being negative to them, but come up with reasons or excuses to not fish anymore. You know,
Yeah.
I don't want that. I don't believe in going back to bare bones just because. I mean, fishing is fishing. We all love a little bit of electronics, but um, yeah, we didn't even pit my kayak. Yeah, but I mean, we didn't get to go over schedule stuff, and I apologize for running long if I did like that. But
Oh no, I mean we still can if you want to stick around.
oh no, I got as much time. My wife, she gets up at 3:30 for work. She's gone, so
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
good. Yeah,
Yeah, John
um,
G. He won. He's always at the top of the leaderboards with the stuff that he fishes.
yeah,
And I think I don't even know if he's got side imaging.
yeah,
Now, I know I'm guilty of it, right? I started out, I'm fishing in a little $250 sit inside Pelican that I bought. I didn't even know it was a fishing kayak when I bought it. I just bought it to float in.
yeah.
And that's what got me into it. And then I met Nathan Skinner,
Uh-huh.
and he's like, "Man, let me know if you ever want to partner out there." And I'm like, "Yeah, man, come on. I'll be out here this day." And he comes out there in his Bonafide SS with a motor guide and a graph on it, and I'm like, "Man, that's really nice." So I
Yeah,
start looking and looking, and I'm like, "Well, now I've got a Slayer Max with a motor and two screens and
yeah.
all kinds of stuff. I added a flat bottom on the back over the rudder control so I could put another black pack back there.
Golly, two black packs. That's nuts. So it's funny, like we've all been to the other end, and so and I got a little bit roasted on that native video with that hammer. I was like, I want to be a little simple with this, and I've got, forward facing sonar, two graphs, a motor with foot steering, and what I meant to say was I wanted as simple disconnecting and connecting, which we did, because Tom is stupid good at that stuff. I don't know how he finds the stuff that he does, but and that's where I find myself now. Like literally, if I had to start it all over again, I would get something like a PWR. I would put budget minded. It doesn't matter. You don't have to do 6 miles an hour. So like everybody's talking about the Garmin motor. Oh, it only does. I don't care. If I get 4 miles an hour, that means I'm not having to kick or paddle 4 miles an hour.
Yep.
I would do whatever it took, like Texas paddle, Texas power paddle makes a really good budget friendly motor. I would do that, and the Lowrance Eagle forward facing sonar.
Hmm.
That would be the two things I bought, and you could do that. And 2 grand's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, but men find a way to get what they want. That's
Yep.
that's what I would do. I would get a PWR. I would put some type of propulsion on it, and then I would just get, $1,000 forward facing and then roll on with it. Because you can look at a map or have the map on your phone, and everybody's got some sort of tablet. Download the Garmin bought Navionics. Download that.
Yep.
Just look at a topo, and then just start searching for structure and fish and fish. So it makes it fun.
So Steven said, "How do you even reach two black packs?" So
Mm.
one black pack has tackle in it. And that one's right behind my seat. And then I've got this black pack right here behind me. And this one houses my GLS 10 black box and my live scope battery. So I can strap this down to the back of the kayak, and I've got a plug on either side for the Ethernet and for the transducer, and I can pull my entire live scope set off the kayak in seconds. You know,
Gotcha.
and because they're getting stolen, they're getting stolen now,
Yeah.
and I don't want mine to get stolen with an extra $4,000 worth of stuff on it. So I take as much of it off as I can whenever I'm storing it. So the screens come off, transducer comes off, and the black box and the battery come out.
Yeah,
And,
so I got we actually figured out how to take an NRS strap and wrap it around your motor and connect it to your trailer so you didn't have to take your motor off each time
yep.
and it wouldn't bounce. But I'm sitting here thinking, dude, that thing's gonna be in a pawn shop in 2 minutes, you know?
Uh-huh.
And so I quit doing it. I started throwing it in the truck. I was like, just come on, take an extra 3 minutes and put your thousands of dollars worth of stuff up,
Yep.
So yeah,
Yeah.
there goes again. I don't have that spidey sense. It's like, is this danger coming? No, no.
See, I get 4.3 mile an hour out of my water snake 24.
Oh, dude, yeah, that water snake. I forgot about that one. Yeah, and so
Yeah.
yeah, and some of these kayaks, like if you get in rough weather, the faster you go, the less they can handle.
Yep.
And that's one of the main things I also kind of try to preach in the Bassmaster and Georgia stuff is, you know your kayak's limitations based off of weather and water, but know your limitations too, because like if you get out there and you get, white knuckled, you know, you're going to so you know, chemical plant I used to work at, we had this one chemical. It was a nickel something. So anyway, we had these big totes, big tote, like you see a lot of farms have these plastic square totes with a metal cage around them. They carry water and stuff around in. That's what this chemical came in. So you'd pick it up on a forklift, set it on a platform, hook a pump to it, and take off. Now it was a toxic chemical, and so my partner one day we had to change that tote out. So he set a brand new one up there, and when he did, he broke the front spout off. So I think they're 400-gallon totes. So this chemical, and it's over a containment dike. And this man is a Marine, been to war, been to combat, been trained, been shot, stabbed, whatever. What he does is he picks it up and takes it outside and sets it on the ground instead of leaving it where it was at so that it would fill the containment dike. So my point being, you can never train for how you're going to react in situations. Um,
Mhm.
and so that's why it just so when you get in those situations with that wind, you know, the best thing you can do is just go to the bank. Just go to the bank and sit down. You know,
Yep.
if you don't have cell signal and you can't get a hold of anybody, sit there. That's better than getting flipped into the, Davy Jones locker.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
That's exactly right. Then Patricia Leanne Shaw says she saw a guy make a floating live well with a laundry basket and pool noodles. Yep, I've seen
yeah,
some people do stuff like that.
yeah,
And silver punk. Eventually kayaks will probably have live wells. I wish I had one for these crappie I've been catching. And that's
yeah,
when I see that new wilderness with the two buckets up front. That's all I can think about is a live well.
yeah. Get the Hobie bait bucket. Yeah, a lot of guys use that. So yeah,
Sham said he saw an XTR with a 9.9. Blew my mind.
yuck.
And then Georgia Bassmaster, Marshall Stamps. He just did like the big Newport motor on his XTR on like a little private spot. And man, he was hauling the mail on that thing.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about with somebody's like the XTR. Who knows how long any of us have in this industry? But like, if I was getting out tomorrow, I would get an XTR, and only because I mean we got enough buddies with boats, you know. But that XTR, I mean, you can take it to like what you just said, with Sham and you guys looking at some of the Georgia stuff. You can take it on all those bodies of water.
Mhm.
You can take a person with you, kid, wife, whomever, um, and you can fish that thing on any body of water that you want. And like you all know, we have boaters, even the professional that we've got, Bassmaster and MLF anglers that tell us whenever they actually get out and spend more than one day with kayaks and fish in them, they're like, crap, dude. You know,
Yeah.
you guys know every rock, every stump. They're impressed with that. And so that was one of the first things I learned from Jacob Wheeler we get, cross paths with him and stuff as we travel, is one of the things he does. And Mark Daniels Jr. is a top shelf human of this world. Um, they literally, when they're breaking down a lake, they will go and mark every rock pile, every submerged timber log, every one of them. They mark thousands of waypoints, and they break down the lake and they find their fish. And when they can't find fish during the tournament, if they've moved, they go back and start hitting those submerged objects, and so to what I was saying, that point being, if you're fishing, part of, Alatoona in that XTR, and you've just, let's just say you rent a lake house with your father-in-law for 3 days, you can take that thing anywhere on that lake and fish it, no matter if the wake boats are coming through or anything like that,
Yeah.
and then if you want to do a river float within reason, it's there too,
Yeah.
so you can't do shoals with it, I guess, but you could do all the other stuff. So it's pretty complete.
15 mile an hour on the new canoe max. That's just scary.
Yeah. We actually got to go down there after the Lanier tournament, and there was like seven of them on that new canoe max. And I asked him if they had Daisy Dukes and tube tops on. Tyler was one of them. I don't know if he heard that, but yeah, yeah.
Oh,
But
that's great.
that thing was pretty slick, man.
It is. I like
Yeah,
it. I like it. It's pretty nice.
yeah.
I like that rear storage hatch. Everybody that has a hatch on the rear is, it's this big you can barely fit your hand in there.
Yeah,
That
yeah. It's
thing's
just like,
nice.
what do you do? It literally, it's just there for you to be able to grab a wire and pull it to the other end. That's it. Yeah,
I like that. He said it was awesome.
yeah. It was pretty good. Yeah,
Yeah, I like
yeah. They've
those.
got some good content on that too there. So, we said it for years. I'm gonna pass it on to Tyler because, his brother-in-law Craig. He was one of the instrumental people here in Tennessee to get kayaking where it was. He actually ran KBFTN, you were mentioning,
Okay.
from the ground up, and hell, I think he won 3 Tennessee state championships. But Craig, for years, from the first day we met, which is the first year I kayaked, actually, I had bought a native FX tandem. Me and Lambert went and picked it up. It's the first kayak I bought. The next one was a Slayer Propel 13 I bought from Craig, and I met him up the road from my house and bought it. And then he tutored me through a lot of stuff, and actually helped me a lot with learning how to do tournament director stuff. Craig Dye is just I can't thank him enough for what he's done for me. But he always had an open invitation to go every year. They go red fishing, and I just never got to make it. And so I met Tyler, with Craig on Lake Seminole one day, and so it seems like it's going to be Tyler's the one I get to go red fishing with out of the family there. So yeah, but
That's
we got a lot of good stuff going on around here, man. And it's just, stuff like your guys' podcast is what makes it, where we all get to connect and see one another, and it makes it just keeps us going to the next tournament, or so to speak, or the next meetup,
yeah. Thanks for that. Thanks for that. I know we,
yeah.
and that's what we try to have. Is just this is a hangout spot. You know what I mean? We try to keep it light and stuff just to try and fill the gap. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything doesn't always have to be serious.
That's exactly right. I don't like. I just wish there was no serious hardly anymore. We
Yeah.
got enough. We're just gonna go fish. Yeah.
Bottom line asks if there should be a weight limit for the amount of electronics for safety reasons.
I mean, maybe, um, but the thing is the kayak has a weight limit itself already. You know. Um, I mean, so uh, there again, at a certain point, you know, it's your responsibility.
Yeah.
If you're going across a walking bridge that says, "Hey, this is a 50-pound weight limit," you're not going to go across that walking bridge. So, you yourself should already have that done and figured out. It's not a matter of what I want. It's like, what can I have? What is what I have can handle what I want. Um, and so that's another thing. With all due respect to everybody, it's not everything's my job. It's just not. It's just not. We're in this together. Yes, I may be a leadership figure in certain things, but all I can really do is facilitate a lot of stuff. I'm only as good as the anglers that are in that tournament that week. If everybody in that tournament decides to just do stupid crap and do this and that and the other, then I'm going to look awful. Everything I do depends on the anglers doing their job and taking pride in that tournament series. Um, it's like with the grassroots series. Our grassroots series are almost like biker clubs. We take pride in them. We love them because we put it in. And then when you get a couple of tournament directors that are putting on tournaments, getting you prizes, hyping you, broadcasting your accomplishments, you buy into those men and women, and then you want to support them all that you can. But at the end of the day, whenever the anglers aren't doing such and such, then it makes everything fall apart, because a tournament director only has control over black and white, A, B, and C, start to finish, and handing out penalties and judging fish. Everything in between is you guys. So, like I just mentioned to you, a lot of tournaments are not fun for a tournament director. While y'all are fishing and we're sitting back here, Now, granted, again, I'm a blessed man and I love it. I'll take that stress every day versus having to, walk an I beam welding, 300 foot off the ground. Um, but we sit there all day long hoping everybody makes it back safely. And other than judging fish is easy. We're waiting on somebody to make a mistake. That's
Mhm.
all. That's because that's when you have to do your job, is when a mistake happens. And fortunately, Tennessee and Georgia and most of the country, you guys, other than a cracked mouth penalty, that's about all we have to deal with on most tournaments. So
How many phone calls do you field during a tournament of people trying to report other people for nothing, pretty much? Like, you know.
not many, not many. It really is launch time sometimes, and it's lighting. That's
Mhm.
pretty much about it.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I've had a few when we had to cancel a day of fishing due to weather. We Some people didn't get the memo, so they're out there wrecking them, or trying to wreck them. And so somebody will message or call and say, "Hey, there's a guy out here fishing." I've had about half a dozen of those. I'll just share with you. Two of those was me and Couth out fishing, ourselves, um, on a different body of water, but it was kind of connected. But there was a land barrier there that it wasn't the same body of water. But then the others, so out of half a dozen of those, two of them were legit. But we've had some communication phone calls come in, and we questioned those anglers, and they admitted, so we didn't have to. So, like, if in a Bassmaster, hey, Alex and Steve-O are talking, and so I question you, and I question Steve, and he lies, and we feel like it, then we'll sequester your phone records, and trace that back. But they admitted to what they did, and so we put a penalty on that one. Yeah, we've had phone calls. Let's see, this is the last 2 years in Bassmaster, so you have to be back at the launch area an hour after lines out. Um, Probably had six of those as well, and all six of those were admitted to and penalized. So, uh, Georgia and Tennessee in the Bass Nation, you don't have that time limit to get back, but in Bassmaster, you've got 1 hour to get back to your ramp area. For every minute you're late is a 1 inch penalty.
Okay.
Uh, 15 minutes, that day's fish are disqualified. So. You know,
Okay.
and the very first tournament, I took the series back over on Guntersville. I had 4 people. I had to do that too on day one. Yeah.
Silverpunk wants to know what total inches do we think would be considered the same as a 20-pound bag? 95?
That sounds about right to me, you think?
Yeah, I'd say anywhere between 95 and 100. That's a bag right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
You got
Yeah.
some good fish. And Patricia Leanne says not all fish are the same weight. But if you go, yeah, you might get a long skinny one, but average if you just go weight scale, you know, an 18-inch bass should weigh 3.2 pounds. You
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
you just kind of guess, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had the one guy ask about, are you doing anything different to protect yourself as a TD from litigious actions? Yes, actually, and anybody that needs it, and I introduced Sham to them. Bissell Insurance Agency out of Montana. That's an insurance broker a buddy of mine introduced me to, and so I have event insurance that covers myself, the people who help me operate the event, and the anglers that are fishing it. Like say, and then the Georgia Bass and Tennessee Bass Nation stuff, we're covered under the Bassmaster insurance, which covers the anglers, the officers, and I want to say, and this is I'm paraphrasing, I want to say if a boat hits you, you're still covered, and if you hit a boat, they're still covered. We had a high school angler here in Tennessee trip on stage and break his foot, and it paid for everything. Mom and dad being off work, taking him back and forth the whole 9 yards. So,
Oh wow.
yeah, but what I have, the insurance that I have that covers me, because I have to have a certain level of coverage to for Bassmaster, and then it covers all my other tournaments for Tennessee, Georgia, um, TVKA. I do tournaments for GSM. And Bass Pro and another company I'm forgetting right now. But dude, all that's like $750 a year.
Yeah.
So if to protect your tournament directors, it's going to cost a club of 50 people, $15 a year, and you've got that insurance coverage. So
That's
it's
great.
fairly inexpensive.
Will we ever see a kayak tourney weigh in? We have awards ceremonies.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we won't. I don't see how we do anything because I think, and it's not beating the boats down the road, but the catch photo release for us is pretty big deal, you know. So it will always be a measure and release. I think I really do. I don't see us having live whales or anything like that because I'll just be honest. I've fished a lot of boat tournaments, and we know what we're doing, and you still lose fish,
Yeah.
because I mean, hell, you throw you in a box and let you get shook around all day long. We could feed you ribeyes, Budweiser, and Gatorade, and you're still going to be stressed.
Yeah.
And especially when you're a dumb fish, you don't know, well, hey, where'd the lights go? Why am I getting shook around? And they'll have a heart attack. That's stress on that fish. I think people forget it's a live animal or whatever you want to call it. They have emotions. They get scared. That's why, we elicit chatterbait strikes not only because they're hungry, but because we startled them or they're pissed off and they bite it. Fish get scared, and so that's that they can have heart attacks, I guess.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, anything could, you'd think.
yeah, yeah.
Tyler,
Cheater and a skeeter.
Tyler said he's got to run. Great show. See you in Florida, Steve O.
Heck yeah,
Are you going to be down there for what is it, Seminole for the
yeah. I'll
one
be there
we're
for
doing
Seminole.
with?
Yeah, we're getting down. Yeah, we'll try to three-peat. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just excited. Seminole is my favorite lake in the whole country, next to Gunnersville, and then yeah, I love Seminole. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'll be down there.
I want to fish Gunnersville something fierce.
You know how it goes. We all open these invitations, but I'm an hour to my honey hole in Gunnersville. So if you're ever around, we'll make something happen.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And Sham says all we need is live coverage at the Bassmaster Kayak Series. Don't don't
What
they have
happened at the
camera boats?
championship? Huh?
Don't they have camera boats for
Uh,
Bassmaster?
we've got a camera boat. He takes pictures and things like that,
Okay.
But you have to have that truck with the big booster box to be able to get it and then put it back out there. So the October championship we have, that's part of the reason we moved it to October is we'll have the Bassmaster Elite stage for everyone, and we'll be able to stream. We're going to work on trying to stream while you guys fish that 3 day championship too. So
That'll be
we're
cool.
working on that. So
That'll be cool. That'll be real
yeah,
cool.
but it all does come. Long story short, the more people share and do the hashtag stuff, that's what brings it all back around, because you all know better than I do, an algorithm runs everything now,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever see like any other leagues develop in a kayak series like MLF or
Mhm.
BPT or anything like that?
I don't. So like that, the GSM tournament I run, and that's rattle trap stuff like that.
Mhm.
We work with Boyd Duckett with MLF quite a bit, and he's a cool guy. I know business people don't like certain things, but we've all talked about it, and it's just, if you think about it, KBF was built and was strong back in the day. And a lot of that came from volunteers across the country, because Chad he can't be everywhere. So, volunteers ran a lot of those tournament events remotely, so to speak. Um, so when you get into like a Bassmaster or a Hobie BOS or MLF and MPFL, you got to pay somebody a salary to do that every year. Then you have tournament expenses, like banners, props, identifier. I mean, identifier cards are $1 a piece. I mean that's a lot of money. That's 3 or 4 grand a year. And
Yeah.
no, we don't have a team kayak series right now. I'm working on trying to think about some things like that. But in order to do a team series the way you need to do it, you would need to be able to communicate with one another on the phone, and we can't allow that. So but I don't see anything right now. Now there'll be series pop up just because it's easy to start a tournament series. It just is. You can do it with nothing, and you got to be careful, because but the more things you have pop up, the more you dilute the pool. You know, like I pushed for years. I argued and not argued like cats and dogs, but I was pretty adamant, like, guys, because I don't like not being able to put a Bassmaster on in every region. I was like, we need 8 tournaments, we need to do this, that, and the other. And finally they broke it down. They showed me, if we have 9 tournaments, then people look at the calendar and they're like, oh, I'm fishing Santee Cooper. Well, something comes up and you're like, well, you know what, I'll just fish this one instead.
Mhm.
Well, then something comes up, you can't fish that one. Now you didn't fish anything. But if you only have Santee Cooper, by dang it, you're going to make Santee Cooper.
Yeah.
So you have more tournaments, but your unique anglers doesn't grow. So like you may have 1,000 unique anglers. I think is what we had last year. If I added 2 more tournaments, it's not like we would have 1,500 unique anglers. We're still probably
Right.
going to only have 1,100. So now, instead of a 200 angler average for a high payout, we would have 140,
Mm-hmm.
and the payouts would be less. It would be spread out, but then, I mean, that 150, 180 mark is when you guys get a really good payout, a really
Yeah.
good payout. And so, like for me on the Bassmaster, I try to do your entry fee plus double, so 750 for last place money. There's 250 entry fee. I try to give you $500 on that. Georgia and Tennessee Bass Nation are $75 entry fees. Last place money, I think we're at 150, so you get double your money. I have to look that up, but and that changes. The less anglers you have, it looks more, but it's not. But
Right.
you know,
Okay. And Jonathan says he's pulling for Giovanni Cazares and Larry Hollis for the championship in March. They fish the NEAKA here in Northeast Arkansas.
yeah, I think Giovanni was one of the guys where my truck got totaled in Texas. He was in that convoy going to red fishing with us when that morning when my truck got totaled. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He was about 15 minutes away, and they come in hot, making sure everything was all right. So yeah, yeah. I think he finished third on Toledo Bend. I think it was third. Yeah,
So one last question from me.
yeah.
So you just have a tournament, you're doing award ceremonies, and everybody's buying jerseys now, right? Getting them made. Uh, let's say one of the guys in the top three walks up and his bass shield's not in the right spot. Is there any penalties for that stuff?
On his jersey?
Yeah, because I know I've read that like
No,
they want
no.
them in like on the chest, and I
They
know some
want them
put them on
somewhere,
the
like the
sleeve.
sticker behind you, that one behind you
Yep,
right
yeah,
there.
yep.
Yeah, it's. I'll just have to pull a jersey out. No, they like for to be that, but there's no penalty for it.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, okay, cool.
yeah. No, there's no fish penalty. We're not going to send you to New York or anything like that. You're good. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
No,
I had one that had one on my sleeve, and someone was like, "Hey, man, you might want to be careful wearing that thing." I was like,
yeah.
"Why?"
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I just and I don't understand where that kind of stuff comes from people. I just don't get it. Yeah. And that. But here's the thing, and I'm thank you to you, but that's another one of the biggest struggles with a tournament director is that people don't talk to you. They
Yeah.
don't ask you those questions. I mean, and
Mhm.
that's why I've always been, if you text me at 4 a.m., you're probably going to get a reply. You know,
Yeah.
it's just because I mean that's our jobs together, and not my job because it's what I do for a living, but it's our job because we're in this together is to ask those questions because, and that's part of what I had implemented with Bassmaster is, if you're fishing around Alex, don't ask Alex a question. Ask me, because we've been at the boat ramps before, and I say, Alex, what's the identifier code? And you say 774.
Mhm.
Well, it was 747. And now you screwed my tournament up because you messed up. You
Yeah.
just misremembered, and I took your word for it. So it's like, hey, I'm the one with the black and white right here. Y'all are on the water. Call and ask me and let me answer that for you together. You know, and it's not because I'm the boss, but I'm the one with the material. You don't need to be trying to remember it. Let's just ask somebody that's got the material in front of them. Y'all fish. Like I have people all the time. I can't do this, this, or this. I say, hey, look, text me this, and then you just go back to fishing. That's what I want y'all to be able to do every day is to just fish and not worry about anything else. Uh, but other than that is always check your stringer during the day.
Yeah.
So yeah, but no, there's no penalty for misplaced badges or anything like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've read some stuff like for the real pros. You know what I mean? And I was just
Yeah,
wondering
that's
if it
that's a
passed
different
down.
deal. Yeah, like technically we're supposed to, but like no, we don't have that. Yeah. So yeah.
Well, we've been going 2 hours now. Hell, that
Heck yeah, I like
half
it.
an
I
hour
like
flew right
it.
by. Man,
We're
thank you
good.
for coming on. You are probably the biggest name, if not one of the biggest names in tournament directors, and I appreciate you coming on and let me pick your brain.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys, man. We'll catch up. We'll come on from time to time, maybe give a half a season update or something like that and see what's up, man. But I appreciate you guys and most importantly, even having a podcast because, we need this stuff. It opens up. I don't think y'all know, and we can't quantify it, but but how many people don't even know what we do, but then they see a podcast and they're like, okay. It brings people into the sport.
Yeah.
And so we appreciate you guys doing that kind of stuff.
Thank you. Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
man.
Thank you to all the viewers. Man, we can't do it without y'all. Y'all make the show what it is. And with that, I'm gonna say goodnight. I got to get up early and get to work tomorrow. So Tune in tomorrow at noon, and you will see Danny's lovely face for the lunch break. And I will see you again next